What is anthropology?
What is anthropology?
What is anthropology?
What really anthropology is?
Anthropology is the study of people, past and present, with a focus on understanding the human condition both culturally and biologically.
Nature and scope of anthropology. The study of human past and present is anthropology. Anthropology's goal is to describe and explain human variation, to observe similarities and differences in people through time and across space. Anthropology draws and builds upon knowledge from the social and biological science, as well as the humanities and physical science to understand the full width and complexity of cultures across all of human history. The word anthropology comes from the Greek word anthropos, means human. Logia means study, which together signifies in all aspects, including cultural, social, biological, and linguistic evolution. This field seeks to understand human origins and behaviors and interactions across different times and places, offering insights into what it means to be human. Understanding oneself requires recognizing the impact of culture, culture shape, or other self-concept, influencing how we see relationship, personality traits, goals, and achievements, and even how we express emotion. Embracing culture differences help us appreciate that we are all unique in our own ways.
An individual's journey to better understand the self needs to recognize the influence of one's cultures. Its complexity imbibed a person's self-concept or self-control and affects how individual views relationships, personality traits, goals, and achievements, and even in the way we express emotions. Cultural variations help everyone to accept the reality that we differ from one another.
There are two key concepts in anthropology are cultural relativism and historical particularism. Let's know them one by one. Cultural relativism. Cultural relativism. This perspective argues that each society or culture must be understood on its own terms without judgment. It emphasizes that ranking societies on an evolutionary scale is neither possible or meaningful. Historical particularism. Historical particularism closely linked to cultural relativism. This view suggests that every society has a unique history. There are no predetermined stages that societies must go through, emphasizing the distinct paths each culture follows.
There are two important concepts in the field of anthropology. First is the cultural relativism, is the view that every society or every culture has to be understood on its own terms from within, and that is neither possible nor particularly interesting to rank societies on an evolutionary ladder. Second is the historical particularism, which is closely related to cultural relativism, consists to view that every society has its own unique history, which is to say that there are no necessary stages that society passes through.
The concept of the self has always been a significant area of exploration in anthropology. It allows us to understand how individuals perceive themselves within their cultural frameworks and how these frameworks shape their identities. Let us delve into two important perspectives. First is the self and the person in differing cultural contexts as discussed by Harry Trendes. And second, the Filipino self-embedded in culture analyzes through Pantayong Pananaw by Jesus Salazar.
Have you ever asked, who am I? Your answers reflect on self-concept. Our sense of self is shaped by the world, and we influence it in return. One key factor is culture, which acts as a lens through which we view the world.
Who am I? You have probably asked yourself this question before. What answer did you give? Your answer to the question, who am I, reveal your self-concept. Marcus and Cerf, 1987. The self is shaped by the world we live in, and we in turn shape the world. One aspect of the social context that influences our self-concept is culture. Culture is like a set of lenses for seeing the world. Edward Tyler, 1873, defined culture as a complex whole which include the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, morals, and other capabilities acquired by man as a member of society.
Individualist and collectivist culture. Cultural differences can be seen in two worldviews. Individualism, emphasizing independence and interdependence. This concept, developed by Hofstede, Schweitzer, and Berne, was later popularized by Tarandis.
So now, let us tackle about the self-indifferent culture context by Tarandis. Tarandis contrasts individualistic cultures, where the self is independent and emphasizes personal goals, with collectivistic cultures, where the self is interdependent and prioritizes group harmony. This culture lenses influence how people define themselves and interact with others.
The self embedded in the culture. It's how individuals see themselves related to others and connect with the environment is deeply shaped by culture. If we view the self a product of culture, it follows the development of the self influenced by cultural differences.
The self embedded in culture. How the individuals see themselves, how they relate to other people, and how they relate to the environment are deeply defined by culture. If one views the self as the product of their culture, then it is believable that the ways of how the self is developed are bound to cultural differences as well.
Now, let's proceed to the second perspective, the Filipino self-embedded in culture by Salazar. Salazar highlights the Filipino self through pantayong pananaw, a perspective rooted in shared experiences. He introduces first labas or external influences, second loob or inner self, third lalim or deeper cultural roots. These layers reflect how Filipinos balance external and internal cultural forces.
The self-concept. The self-concept is a collection of ideas, beliefs, and images about ourselves, making it multidimensional and dynamic.
At any moment, we focus on a specific part of it, known as the working self-concept, which is active and changes over time. Our self-concept is shaped by what we're thinking, the current situation, our social experiences. This shows that the self is constantly influenced by historical and social context.
Our self-concept is influenced by the roles we play, the social identities we form, and how we compare ourselves to others. First, the roles we take on, like being a student or parent, become part of us. Second, our social identities, such as being a Catholic or from a specific place, shape who we are. Third, we compare ourselves to others to assess traits like intelligence or skill.
Additionally, how others perceive us and the surrounding culture also shape our self-concept. Charles H. Cooley called this the looking glass self, where we see ourselves through the eyes of others.
Culture defines the self. In cultural psychology, the self and the culture shape each other. Cultural practices influence how we think, feel, and act, while our individual selves also transform culture. Our self-concept is shaped by our cultural context. So the self is considered universal. Its meaning varies across different cultures.
Culture's influence on the individual. Relationships. Cultures shapes how we form and maintain relationships. In Western cultures, choosing a partner is essential, while in some Eastern cultures, arranged marriages are still practiced. Personality traits. Culture affects that value placed on traits like humility, self-esteem, politeness, assertiveness, and how we view friendships or rely on others. Achievement. Culture influences how we define success and the value placed on individual or group achievements. Expressing emotions. Culture determines what affects us emotionally and how we express our feelings, whether openly or privately.
Thank you for watching. We hope you gain a deeper understanding of anthropology and stay curious and keep exploring.